Welcome to episode 189 of the Grip Strip Podcast, a survival time episode of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my co-host, the iRacing Indy 500 champion, computer genius, gentleman, and a scholar, and somebody whose team comes off of a victory in London. His name is Joshua Fine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, Phil. And of course, yes, for all Jacksonville Jaguars fans, it's Victory Monday here, the day after they win in London. First victory since the opening week, first victory in Toy Story canon since they played the game in Andy's room on Disney Plus, which was interesting. And yeah, they get back on track for now before going into the matchup in the Josh Allen Bowl in London again. So that's good. Of course, saw a lot of good racing this weekend at Talladega as usual. And yeah, glad to get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into the Talladega Cup race, which saw YRB Ryan Blaney win a third time at Talladega in a photo finish. This time initially over Kevin Harvick, but after post-race inspection, Kevin Harvick got disqualified. So the results and the point situation definitely gets affected by all of that. I would assume we'll get into that. We'll also talk about the Truck Series race, which saw Brett Moffitt, Red Hat Moffitt, get a win. They were trying to sell it as though he was like looking for a ride, which only in Brett Moffitt's world could he go and napalm himself out of a team when there's been nothing going on. They just do their thing all season, and he just he's putting himself into a bad situation every time he's been around. But we'll talk about the Truck Series, talk about the Cup Series. We'll preview the Roval for Cup and Xfinity. Also get into the Nick Sanchez, Matt Crafton fight, I'll put it in air quotes because it really wasn't a fight. Crafton sucker punched Nick Sanchez after they got together and triggered the big one. So we'll get it. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about NFL Week 4 for the Jaguars and 49ers. Of course, Niners come off of winning a division game against the Arizona Cardinals to get to 4-0. They'll be on Sunday Night Football this coming weekend against the Dallas Cowboys. So big game there. I think one of the first major tests for the 49ers. The Eagles are also 4-0, but they definitely haven't done it in the same manner as they did last year. But they are 4-0, so that's leading to a collision course for sure in Week 11. Talk about fantasy teams as well, and the Fall Brawl League. GSP Roundup will include MotoGP, Moto2, World Superbikes, NHRA, a preview of the Bathurst 1000, and Andretti Global being approved for Formula One as the 11th team for F1, so that'll be something we can discuss. Large part of that is due to the Gainbridge guy, same way as why they're involved at Spire and why Spire's got like money out the ass to go and buy this, that, and everything. I can bring up Kyle Busch Motorsports being bought out by Spire as well. I'll put that in there. KBM bought by Spire. All right, so we'll preview the Qatar Grand Prix, make our picks behind the guy who's going to end up winning the World Championship during the sprint race on Saturday. See what happens with that. There's an interesting battle with the other teams that are there. Cup and Xfinity Roval picks and who advances. One of the more chaotic races of the season, the Roval, and they've reintroduced stage breaks for the sake of having restarts and wrecks. So we'll see and where they're restarting the race is also just a recipe for disaster too. Josh will let us know all things going on in the world of iRacing and gaming in the sim segment, and we'll close the deal. So yeah, let's get into it. The Yellowwood pressure treated Pine 500 at Talladega. Oh wow, Iowa Speedway's going to get a Cup race. Wow, that'll be something. The Talladega 70 lead changes amongst 24 drivers, so that's a pretty sporty race for sure. Joey Logano led the most laps in the race, started second, led the most laps. Didn't win a stage. Brad Keselowski won stage 2. Blaney won stage 1. William Byron was second in both stages, interestingly enough. Racing for trying to get the playoff points or whatever, since he's already locked in to the round of 8. We'll get into the results here before we get into the discussion. Ryan Blaney gets the victory, his 9th Cup Series win, his second win of 2023 over Byron. Dennis Hamlin was 3rd. Corey LaJoie from 36th, he finished 4th. Gumby Cindric was 5th. Justin Haley 6th. William Clyde Elliott, the 2nd, was 7th. Ryan Preece, a.k.a. Ricky Bobby, finished 8th in the Wonder Bread car. Riley Herbst, who qualified 6th in a 3rd Front Row Motorsports car, was up front for a good amount of the day, finished 9th. That's his second top 10 in the Cup Series, I believe. Daniel Suarez rounded out the top 10. Chandler Smith, 11th. Todd Gilliland, I was wrong. I thought Briscoe was further back, yeah. So Chase Briscoe, who was Cal Naughton Jr., finished 13th. Christopher Bell, Larson, Reddick, Al Mirola, who started on pole, Truex, Buescher, and AJ Allmendinger around out top 20. Darrell Walsh Jr., 23rd. Kyle Busch, 25th. Brad Keselowski triggered the big one, 32nd. Carson Hocevar was competitive, but then was involved in that wreck. Ross Chastain finished 37th. And he's mentioned Kevin Harvick got DQ'd and ended up finishing dead last. So it shows once again, I think, for Ryan Blaney, he has become that guy on super speedways where he is cautiously aggressive compared to his teammate Joey Logano and his former teammate Brad Keselowski, who are more likely to get involved in incidents and or possibly trigger wrecks. Ryan Blaney is more cautious, but his methodology has seemingly put himself in position to win a lot at Talladega. It hasn't worked out as well at Daytona, but, he got to go and kiss his smoking hot girlfriend in Victory Lane and get the interesting trophy there, locks himself into the round of 8, gives himself momentum, going to tracks, especially, I think, Las Vegas, which is one of his better racetracks, to possibly go and give himself an opportunity to get into the Final Four, which, considering what has been going on with Ford for most of the year, if a Ford makes the Final Four, it'll be a miracle, but it doesn't seem as far-fetched, especially considering Blaney's relative competitiveness for the most part of this season. But a win is a win. The timing is great for YRB, but Fords, of course, seemed to do well at the plate tracks, but there was plenty of variety at the front of the field. And but Blaney was the one who got to celebrate yesterday, Josh.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney pulled off a clutch win there at the end. I think his strategy at restrictor plate or super speedway drafting tracks, whatever you want to call it now, he's been somebody who, he doesn't do any aggressive blocking really, but he always manages to find a way to stay up front once he gets up to the top 5. So he doesn't have to lead, and he knows when to try and make the move. Because obviously, you're better off being in second, I think, than being in the lead at these races. Obviously, it's blocking in the old car was better than this car, but it's better to be the pusher, trying to go for the win, than having to defend. So we saw him, earlier this year. Talladega had a chance on the last lap to win. Got into it with Bubba Wallace and triggered the big one there. Daytona at the one that I went to, the Coke Zero 400, definitely had a chance to win there. Going into stage 2 on the final lap and got taken out there. He's usually a contender at these races. Last year's Daytona 500 was right there before Cindric, his teammate, blocked him into the fence. So, and we've seen it before, and obviously this is the third time he's won at Talladega in a photo finish. So, it says a lot about his methodology and his racecraft on these type of tracks, and how he's able to handle the pressure. So, he's able to grab the lead on the last lap, had a huge run, and was able to push out Kevin Harvick far out, and then lay back just far enough to get kind of a gap. And then once there was an opportunity between him and William Byron there, he was able to shoot the gap and take the lead from Harvick there going into turn 3 and 4 at Talladega. So just interesting finish there, interesting race. And of course for Blaney, locks himself into the round of 8. Going into this race, he was on the outside looking in, sitting in 11th here in the round of 12. So now he locks himself in, and a lot of people were saying, at least Dale Jr., in terms of who could make up the Final Four. I think he had him picked, and for most of this year, Team Penske, they really haven't had a whole lot of pace outside of these big tracks, and he did win the Coke 600, but outside of that, as a whole, Team Penske as an organization hasn't been very quick, and so it's really hard to picture him being in that group. But now he's made it to the round of 8, so he definitely has a couple of chances here after this round finishes up to try and make it into the Final Four. So, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, but, he gets the win. Kevin Harvick, who had a shot, ends up getting disqualified, which if he had won the race, I think that would have made a very interesting decision. Obviously, you could kind of hear, I think CNN or NBC was definitely pumping the noise for the fans for Harvick potentially winning in his last race. But for Harvick, having a shot like that come up so close and then getting disqualified for improperly mounted windshield braces, definitely a huge misfortune there for him. So I guess glad that NASCAR is in a position where you have to make a tough call there, but at the same time, disappointing for a driver that's going out and hasn't had a win yet, and this was his best shot, and came up just short there. So, it was a pretty interesting race, and of course, very, very competitive, despite the ability of the next gen car to pass. They still put up 70 lead changes, with plenty of 3-wide racing throughout most of the race, although the ending was definitely lacking in that part, but it was still at least 2-wide and not single file race to the finish there.
Yeah, and that's kind of, we've been worried about the product, especially on super speedways. Generally speaking, the product on a week-to-week basis is a topic of conversation. So 70 lead changes should be satisfactory for the majority. The fact that this kind of racing determines the biggest race of the year, I'm not so sure about that, but it is what it is. In Blaney getting that victory is that momentum, like we've been saying. I think you just never know. Logano last year just kind of was treading water and just laying in the weeds. He goes and wins Vegas, and 3 weeks later dominates and wins Phoenix. So he has an opportunity to do the same exact thing and sneak around the likes of Will Byron, sneak around Martin Truex Jr., who's had a nightmare playoff so far. Essentially the two guys that have been the two best drivers this season in terms of points. So that would be interesting if that all worked out that way, but we will see. As we move forward, William Byron leads the overall points. He has won 6 races. He is locked into the round of 8. Ryan Blaney, locked into the round of 8, is 4th in points. Denny Hamlin plus 50 over the cut line. Christopher Bell, plus 22. Christopher Buschard, plus 19. Martin Truex, plus 17. Larson, plus 15. And Brad Keselowski, plus 2 over Tyler Reddick. Darrell Walsh Jr. is minus 9. Ross Chastain's minus 10. And Kyle Busch is in 12th, minus 26. So you look at Kyle Busch, you would assume that his mindset would be to win. And he has a car that can win on road courses, of course, with the recent history of the 8 team with this car. And Kyle Busch being able to generally drive anywhere outside of the Chicago street course in the wet. But the other guys, Bubba had a better car than where he ended up finishing in 23rd. He was helping Denny Hamlin, trying to get him back on the lead lap. And it helped in the end because Hamlin got back to third. Minus 9 to the cut line, going to a road course is not ideal for Bubba, but he's been getting better. Tyler Reddick won a COTA and has been one of the more competitive drivers on the road courses all season. So I think he looks at it as an opportunity. He could go either way, whether he goes and competes for the win or goes and competes for stage points. I'm assuming that he's going to go the way of the win. Brad Keselowski, I think he would go the more conservative route and take the stage points with the knowledge of stage cautions being back for this race, the carnage that seems to take place at the Roval. That might be the more prudent strategy, but who knows? We'll see what transpires. I think there's an ability to go and pit during the green flag cycles before they get to the 2 laps to go and strategize to keep themselves out. Like in the first stage, go and pit somewhere in the middle and stay out long, and they'd be able to stay out the rest of the way to get to the end of stage 2. I think that would be the way to go, and that could go and kind of mitigate some of the other stuff that could go on. But the battle there, once anything after Denny Hamlin is in play. So I even Christopher Bell on, nobody should feel comfortable going to the Roval. So we'll see what happens with that and move forward. The Truck Series was on Saturday. The Love's RV Stop 250, and which saw Brett Moffitt winning for Front Row Motorsports. Didn't get any stage points, but doesn't matter because he didn't have to. It's a one-off. Started 31st, but ended up leading the second most laps in the race, 22. Nick Sanchez, who started on the outside pole, won stage 1. Parker Kligerman won stage 2. Sanchez led the most laps. They got stage 1 winner, stage 2 finished second. So it was a good point stay for him. Moffitt over Ben Rhodes, Dean Thompson, probably his best finish of his career. Chandler Smith taking over the 25 truck, at least for this race, for Rackley. Or Corey Heim continues his super consistent season with another top 5. Daniel Dye from 29th finished 6th. Sanchez, the aforementioned Sanchez, finishes 7th. Haley Deegan actually got a top 10. Parker Kligerman and Lawless Allen rounds out the top 10. Carson Osavar, Raja Caruth, GSP favorite, finishes 12th. Enfinger 13th. Garrett Smithley, credit to him, 32nd to 15th. Ryan Vargas, 33rd to 17th. Christian Eckes finished 19th. Ty Majeski finished 21st and was involved in a wreck, late race wreck. He was part of the big one, which we'll get into. Took out a bunch of vehicles: Van Alst, Gray, Tanner Gray, Crafton, Howard, Roper, Majeski, Drew. Majeski. I don't know about Jake Drew, but he was a lap behind the rest of the field there, so might have been involved. Zane Smith had issues, got earlier. We had mechanical or electrical. I'm forgetting off the top what his problem was, but he lost a lot of laps and ended up finishing 32nd. But yeah, Moffitt gets the victory. It's not out of the realm for him. He's been a former Truck Series champion. He's shown prowess on all different types of tracks, especially in this series. Front Row Motorsports, when they're focused, obviously can bring a good product to the racetrack. But I guess I think that's one piece, one story, but I also would say that the bigger story that came from this weekend was the post-race altercation between Matt Crafton and Nick Sanchez, where Matt Crafton basically sucker punched the rookie driver for Rev Racing in the garage area, and he looked like he was in a ECW match, getting like Sandman getting bladed or something and doing bloody, getting a crimson mask, and threats were made and all kinds of argy-bargy going on. But heading to Homestead, I'm curious to see what's gonna come off from that whole deal. That's basically overshadowed the race itself. But yeah, Moffitt gets a victory. Good for him in his chase to have a job next year, and then we're getting to points. But Nick Sanchez had a great day at Talladega, minus the incident that took place that triggered that whole big wreck. But where would you want to take it? I mean, you can kind of go which way you want to go with that one, Josh.
I mean, I think that incident definitely overshadows anything that really happened in that race. I have to go back to the incident, and looks like from that incident, Nick Sanchez found a hole and decided to take it. And obviously, you're getting close to the very end on that race, and you're not going to lift to let somebody back in. And it looks like maybe Crafton try to cut him off or something to get back in line, and he was already there and he's not lifting, so that triggered the big one there. And then for him, Matt Crafton seems like sucker punched him right there in the garage area after the race, after he'd already showered and everything and gotten dressed and everything. And he put out a comment on social media saying that, before he went and punched him there, apparently Nick Sanchez had already been making threats or something like that. So seems like a lot of he said, she said stuff. Even Nick Sanchez's mom weighed in and said that this was all on Crafton. So take that for what you will. Obviously, two guys weighing it out. Obviously, Crafton's a lot older man than Sanchez. It looks like Sanchez is a very physically thinner man than Matt Crafton is. Obviously, it looks like Crafton's got some pounds on him there. So I think that's maybe an unfair physical battle there. But it is what it is, and definitely overshadows whatever happened in that race. So, on one hand, I kind of want to see them just duke it out onto the racetrack. We saw Sanchez say he was going to effing kill him at Homestead, which, I don't think that's really a murder threat per se. That's more of a, I'm coming after you on the racetrack kind of deal there. But, obviously NASCAR is going to have to investigate that one and figure out if that's what he actually meant there. Obviously people say that when they're really pissed, and he probably has the right to be with his face all bloodied up and everything after the race on Saturday. So, that's all of that. And then of course, I think you also should factor in that Crafton's won a championship in this series, multiple championships in this series. And, have to wonder if that's befitting of a champion to get involved in fisticuffs like that against a younger driver there. And plus, Crafton's already been out of the championship and everything, so it's not like he lost the championship or anything like that. He was already eliminated. So, lots to consider there. But I feel like Crafton is definitely on the losing battle of whether he was in the right or wrong here. So, yeah, that's definitely a. We'll see if they have any penalties, I guess, on Tuesday or whenever NASCAR determines the outcome of this incident. But yeah, of course, yeah, a lot happened in that race. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, Brett Moffitt won, and obviously can say a lot about him there. But obviously he's a serviceable guy in the Truck Series. He gets the job done when he's in a good enough vehicle, and he's proven that he can at least keep his stuff clean throughout the race, and put himself in a spot where he can win, which obviously he was able to do that there, and was up front for a good portion of it there. So yeah, this is definitely a interesting typical Talladega race. Lots of carnage throughout it in the Truck Series, and you end up with people who don't normally finish up in the top 10, like you said, like Haley Diggin, Lawless Allen, people that don't normally finish up there in the top 10 got top 10s. Daniel Dye, not always in the top 10. He got a top 10 there. Chandler Smith came down from the Xfinity Series, replacing Matt Benedetto, gets the top 5 there. Dean Thompson, he's somebody he's hasn't been as successful this year. 20th in the standings, gets a top 3 finish. So down in this, the Truck Series definitely gives a chance at Talladega for some of these guys that haven't had good seasons, gives them a chance to go out and potentially get a good finish or even a win. So yeah, so that's definitely an interesting one there. But obviously it's been overshadowed by 2 drivers getting into it physically.
Yeah, a guy, was 3-time champion, borderline NASCAR Hall of Famer, and reacting the way he did. It's that you think about the Truck Series. I mean, granted, the likes of Skinner and Hornaday and Sprague, they were kind of rough and tumble guys themselves. I mean, more Skinner than the other 2 guys, I would say. But I think Ron Hornaday never backed down from a fight either over the years. But I think for Matt Crafton, he's basically been washed for years. Menards, because they are generally over their time have supported mediocrity, is part of the reason why he still has a job. That and the fact that he's worked for Duke and Rhonda Thorson for over 2 decades, because otherwise I don't think the guy would have a job. Because what does he bring to the table? He doesn't win races anymore. The days of him really being able to contend for a championship, I think, are done too. So I mean it's I don't know. He was mad that Nick Sanchez caused a wreck. I think there's a better way to go and handle that than just going and trying to sucker punch a guy. I mean, especially when you're pushing 50 years old or whatever the hell he is. I mean, it's just Bush League, but there are plenty of comments. It's like that's the reason why the guy never ever really went anywhere outside of the Truck Series. He had 1 year driving for Harvick, and he got promptly replaced by Ron Hornaday. He's ran like a handful of Cup races in his career, but you don't see people saying, "Oh yeah, we want Matt Crafton in our vehicle," even when he was in his prime, winning championships. So, I mean, for Nick Sanchez, yeah, it was aggressive. Yeah. You can make case for it racing. You could say that it was over aggressive, but it's plate racing. It's Talladega. People have been running over each other at Talladega for decades. I mean, the notion that this was any different than a lot of other instances, I'm not justifying his actions. It's racing late in the race, like you brought up, Josh. You're trying to get yourself in a position. He had led the most laps in the race. He is a rookie, so he got shuffled back. He had a fast truck. I mean, he's trying to give himself an opportunity to win. He still hasn't won a race this year. He's on the precipice, like in the points battle, trying to stay alive to get to Phoenix. So, I mean, he's racing for something. Crafton is just out there filling the field. It's curious. I mean, it's a home game for him a few weeks from now at Miami, at Homestead. Can Nick Sanchez use that as motivation to go and win his first career Truck Series race, lock himself into the Final Four at home, or use it for whatever else, or however way he wants to use it so that he can make it in? Or will he get suckered into argy bargy and loses opportunity to compete for the championship at Phoenix. Something we will look at for sure. The Truck Series points, Heim locked himself in with his victory a few weeks back at where was it? Bristol? Yeah, at Bristol, and so he's in the final four. Carson Hocevar's minus 10 behind Heim. Eckes is minus 24 or plus 9 to the cutoff. And then Nick Sanchez is plus 3 over Grant Enfinger, plus 5 over Ben Rhodes. And then after that, Ty Majeski and Zane Smith essentially are in a win-or-go-home situation. For Zane Smith, he knows that he's got a job with Trackhouse and Spire next year in the Cup Series. Essentially, once things kind of started to unravel with the Front Row Motorsports, them and Zane Smith and Front Row Motorsports, their productivity has dropped off. And so the defending series champion, it's a shame to say, but I think there's a pretty good shot that the defending series champion will not get another chance to go to Phoenix with an opportunity to either win or finish second, which he has done, 3 years in a row or something. He's made it to Phoenix, and he finished second 2 years in a row, and then he won it last year. So kind of need a Hail Mary for that one. We're talking about Nick Sanchez, talking about the team that he drives for. We'll bring it up over here. Is Kyle Busch Motorsports was the news during the weekend that Kyle Busch sold his team and Rowdy Manufacturing Group over to Spire Motorsports. They are going to take over all the equipment and all the stuff with that. They have been running a number 7 with Bono Mannion in limited races this year with a list of strong drivers. Cup guys from Hendrick. Raja Karuth is another one he's doing the Xfinity race, I think. Yeah, he's doing the Xfinity race at Phoenix, mixing up the Hendrick cars vehicles there. But Carson Kvapil made his Truck Series debut with Spire, so amongst other drivers that have been in that vehicle this year. So you look at that, it sounds like they've been trying to advance or go and expand their their reach in terms of teams and opportunities to cultivate talent. Now they have a team that has been running 2 full-time truck efforts that are actual Kyle Busch Motorsports, and then you have the Rev Racing 2 truck, which is essentially a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck. So if Sanchez were to continue in the Truck Series, it's more than likely he'll be driving for Spire next year. What happens after that is really a curiosity now, because it isn't based on Kyle Busch pulling money out of his pocket now. Spire has plenty. They could fund probably half the field if they really wanted to with that Gainbridge guy. But yeah, when you heard that Kyle Busch was selling after all these years and all the success he's had in the Truck Series, I think it was probably going this way after he lost that factory support from Toyota, but I didn't think it was going to be this sudden. He had talked about having the team being able to keep it going till Brexton got to age to be able to race for them, and then he was going to retire. Now he got a deal he couldn't refuse, kind of a situation, kind of like what Justin Marks offered to Chip Ganassi. And he gets out of the business of running a Truck Series organization, which basically is a black hole. But Kyle Busch Motorsports now is going to be Spire Motorsports next year in the Truck Series, and Kyle will race for them for 5 races next year. What were your thoughts, Josh, on that news that came out last week?
I mean, yeah, it was pretty shocking to see that news. Obviously, the KBM team has been a mainstay in the Truck Series for over a decade now, and obviously they recently just celebrated 100 wins in the series and as an organization. So, yeah, you thought maybe they'd still be there for at least a few years, and it seemed like people were thinking that Kyle Busch would stick around until it was time for his son to race in the Truck Series, and then he would ultimately retire. But you have to wonder how many years he actually has left with this move, and obviously still racing a handful of races, 5 races next year in trucks. So he's not going away completely as a racer there, but obviously his organization now and probably in a lot better place. And they obviously Spire needed space with KBM, and KBM had assets they were interested in, and then just ultimately evolved into a deal where they decided to make a deal and have an acquisition there. So Spire are obviously full of cash with Gainbridge in everything. So Gainbridge gonna have a fixture in both IndyCar and NASCAR, it looks like, and maybe even F1 if it goes right for Andretti there. So obviously a very huge deal here, and they get a truck program. At least Kyle Busch is, the employee at KBM Motorsports. They go out and at least still have a job. They're not going to get fired or anything like that if they, don't want to. So, at least the employees there won't be losing their jobs. Kyle Busch Motorsports will still exist, but basically just to field Outlaw Kurtz or whatever it is for Brexton Busch at the very, very grassroots level. So, yeah, an interesting situation there that I don't think anybody saw coming, but now it makes a whole lot of sense once you look into it, and how much NASCAR in the Truck Series, like what the teams look like and how much viability there is. At least they have a team that's completely flush with cash and Gainbridge compared to what Kyle Busch running out of his own pocket and everything. And Kyle Busch gets to downsize and spend less money racing and everything. So yeah, it makes a whole good deal for everybody. So pretty shocking to see, but at the end of the day, it's a business deal and everybody gets out what they wanted out of it.
Yeah, and Kyle Busch gets to continue driving truck races, so that's what he wants to be able. He's wanted to do. It isn't to the extent that he probably wants to, but he still gets to do that. And then once you really look into all the webs that are connected between the likes of Trackhouse, Spire, and Colleague, there's this expansive group and a lot of vehicles and a lot of people being moved around here. So the likes of Justin Marks, Dickerson, Poocher, and then Matt Colleague, I think all 4 of those gentlemen are making a massive conglomeration. It may not be that way in writing, but I think this is all kind of in concert, one move after the other. So curious to see how that'll work out leading into starting with 2024 and as it goes on, as the years go on, for sure. Other news in the Truck Series, Daniel Dye mentioned him, one of the guys that Michael Waltrip whacks off to. He announced that he's moving because, of course, the GMS team is closing, and so he needed an opportunity. He's going to move over to McAnally Hilgeman for next year to be a teammate to Christian Eckes, more than likely. Where that leaves Jake Garcia is to be determined, but Daniel Dye will go over there next year in his second season, see if he can make progress, and not just be a guy who gets the camera shots of every wreck that takes place in the Truck Series. The All-Star race going back to Wilkesboro, they'll run the Truck Series again there. Got the injury reports, but it sounds like Friesen's all right. Greg Van Alst is probably going to have some more sheet time, unfortunately, after a huge hit. sadly. Mentioned, what is it? We had, well, also the Indianapolis with the 30th anniversary of the Brickyard 400. They will go back to racing on the oval. Unfortunately, they insist on having the Xfinity Series there instead of sending it back to IRP. But, because it makes no sense to have the Xfinity Series race there. But, it seems like that's become the thing. We just have to oversaturate the amount of races they have at Indianapolis. There used to be a thing about exclusivity, and it was rare, like you'd have the Indy 500, the Brickyard 400, and the U.S. Grand Prix, and that was it for a while. Now every freaking series known to man races there. It's almost like Roger Penske's desperate for money, and the guy's a billionaire. I don't know what maybe it's because it's a Grade 1 circuit, and he needs to be able to make money back on his transaction or whatever. Who knows? But the Brickyard 400 comes back next year, and for the 30-year anniversary. So that'll be cool to see. Hopefully this car will be able to handle it, because you think about the last time they brought a new car essentially to the Brickyard, and Tiregate took place in 2008 at Indianapolis, a Gen 6 car. I think they did enough testing, and there wasn't as much of a deviation off of the Gen 5 to the Gen 6, so that they would have the kind of problems that they did previously. But Brickyard 400 comes back. Some road ringers. We'll get into that later. And then also, it looks like that Iowa Speedway is going to be hosting a Cup Series race next year, which is quite interesting. For many years, held truck and Xfinity races, held 2 Xfinity races, and went by the wayside for a few years. Now IndyCar with Hy-Vee has resurrected the track, so now it's vogue again to go and race there. I'm curious to see if all 3 series will be there, but the Cup Series, they're trying to race on short ovals, even though the short track package is not great. Going to Iowa Speedway for a Cup race for the first time ever in 2024 is an interesting move. Looking at the schedule itself, knowing that IndyCar has a doubleheader, dealing with the Olympics as well. So I'm curious where they're going to put that race. Texas Motor Speedway is going to move out of the playoff and move back to the spring, which is curious because they're running COTA in March. So then they're going to run COTA in March, and then they're going to run Texas in April or May. Don't think that makes a lot of sense, but whatever. I'm not a schedule maker, so I'm just a podcaster. Almirola continues to walk the dog in terms of his whether he's going to retire or not. At this point, I really don't give a crap. I mean, he's Eric Almirola. Like, who really gives a fuck? Like, if he leaves, that means that Tony Stewart's going to sell the charter or lease the charter. If he doesn't leave, he's just going to run 20th every week like he's done for his whole entire effing career. So it is what it is. Ryan Preece is coming back next year. So you have 3 definite vehicles that are coming out of Stewart-Haas. They're going to have the 4-car with Josh Berry, whatever sponsorship they're going to have with that to be determined. Briscoe and Preece will be back next year as well. So I think for Stewart-Haas's sake, they'd be better off running a 3-car organization. And there are other teams that seem to be within the Ford camp that could utilize a charter or with a lease or whatever, the likes of Rick Ware, because, he should be losing one of his charters for lack of productivity. But they're trying to run that one vehicle for Justin Haley, which is essentially the third Roush car, the RFK car, or could be someone else, a Front Row Motorsports car, who knows. But we'll see what happens with all that as we move forward. Let's get into the football. And in this week, I mean, Josh, you mentioned Jaguars in London, first of 2 games that they get to have over across the pond, playing in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this past weekend against the Atlanta Falcons and taking a victory, a much-needed victory, after what has been a struggle to start the 2023 season for the Jaguars. But, you're in a division, the Houston Texans with C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson on both sides of the ball look to be a very competitive team right now, but very young team. Tennessee is doing it with smoke and mirrors, and Indianapolis is like kind of borderline. They have Anthony Richardson, very dynamic player, but they don't have a whole hell of a lot else going on there. Jonathan Taylor's coming back, but I don't think that's going to be enough if he wants to play for the Indianapolis Colts. So Jacksonville's still in the driver's seat, I would think. I'm not sure what you think, but to win that division, but the road is going to be long and probably involve having to go to Buffalo or Kansas City or both if want to get to Las Vegas this year.
Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville, they won against Atlanta, team that they should have beaten, so they did that. Defensively, Josh Allen's on pace for 24 sacks, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But he's gotten 3 sacks in this game and 3 sacks in the first game, so already got 6 sacks, which most through, I think, 4 games currently, so which is more than Calais Campbell from 2017. So definitely a good start to the season defensively. Last game against Houston, they played poorly, but they came back and took care of business against Atlanta. They were able to shut down the Falcons outside of Bijan Robinson. Obviously, that was he's a very talented running back. We saw what he could do, but the Falcons don't really have very much outside of him and Kyle Pitts at tight end. But Desmond Ridder is not really a good thrower of the football and everything. So, and he had 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 to make the game 17-0. So for the Jags. So yeah, definitely good game for defense. Offensively, still had some issues. They're better than previous weeks, but they still had issues as far as being able to take the ball down the field. I think offensive line still has problems, and hopefully the return of Cam Robinson will give them a little bit more stability in the offensive line, help them play with a more tenacity and, I guess, nastiness that you need at that spot. So definitely a good piece that they get back in time for the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills, obviously a very potent team on offense, and they beat the Miami Dolphins 48-20 after the Dolphins had defeated the Broncos 70-20. So definitely a huge loss there for Miami, and now Buffalo comes in going across the pond. Of course, they're going to be on short rest with the flight to England, and Jacksonville will have a week of rest, so preparation-wise, they'll be in a better routine than Buffalo. So we'll see how how that becomes an advantage for them this week. So the first time that they're doing 2 games there, 1 home and away. So going to be interested to see how that works and what the future that will be. But yeah, definitely a big matchup there. And of course, like I said at the top of the show, the Josh Allen Bowl with defensive end Josh Allen or linebacker Josh Allen for the Jaguars going up against QB Josh Allen. Last time this happened in 2021, Josh Allen sacked Josh Allen sacked and intercepted him, forced a fumble on him. So the Jaguars, Josh Allen, came out with the dub there. So, very excited to see how this one plays out. And we'll see if Trevor Lawrence and the Jags can get it going and they can get into some rhythm that they haven't really had this year. We'll see if they're able to keep up with the Buffalo Bills there. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting as far as the division race goes because, yeah, they're 2-2. Everybody's 2-2. The Texans, I mean, last week their win shocking with the Jags, but now that they've taken care of business with the Steelers, who, I mean, obviously Steelers aren't that great quarterback wise, but they're always a tough team to play, and they went and blew out the Steelers. So I think maybe their team's a little bit more legitimate than what people thought it was, and of course, D'Amico Ryan's doing a very good job as coach there down in Houston. A former player who played there for many years, now the coach there. So definitely going to be an interesting matchup there. I don't think Indianapolis, I still think with Anthony Richardson, they're not really going to be a threat to really win the division. Tennessee, always tough, but I think they're on the decline. So it's probably going to be between Jacksonville and Houston. So we'll see how it goes, and definitely not going to be as easy as what we thought, but it's still early in the season. We'll see here in about a month how it looks like on 2 months at the as we go into December. So for the Jags, good win and get back on track. And hopefully they can keep it on track as they go to play the Buffalo here in London. So fantasy-wise, not really doing that great this week. Deebo Samuel didn't have a good game. Neither did Michael Pittman Jr. It's put me in a hole, and definitely depending on Kenneth Walker here to just have a pretty big game offensively as they go to halftime here. In the Giants Seahawks game here. So he's got one touchdown, but hasn't really had a whole lot of yards to go with that. So we'll see if he's able to get more production here in the second half, but definitely a poor output this week, and probably one that I like to have back. So we'll see how that goes throughout the week and into next week as we continue throughout this season. So definitely looking forward to it next week. We'll see if this matchup turns out any better, but probably going to have to start looking towards next week and maybe adjusting the roster some. We'll see. But a lot of interesting scores this week in the NFL. And now we go finish the first quarter of the season, and now we get into the second quarter, and we'll see how teams look like here in October, and if they get, I mean, it seems like the first 4 games are always the sloppy part of the season, so we'll see if the sloppiness throughout offenses, if that goes away and we start to see who's real in this league this year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 4 games in, now we're getting into bye weeks starting this coming week. So rest periods for some of the teams that have some major injuries, injuries that can be recovered from. Buffalo had Tre'Davious White go down for the year with an torn Achilles, so brutal loss for them. Their elite cornerback, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, gets knocked out for the season. So Buffalo, who is a top flight effort, coming off of a game where even though they lost them, they won 48-20 over the Miami Dolphins, kind of knocked them down a couple pegs. A big win for Josh Allen, Professor J's Josh Allen, not Josh's Josh Allen. A lot of Josh going on there, but definitely that game, big one in the AFC. The Chiefs benefited from yet another bogus call in Sunday Night Football, where they called Sauce Gardner for a hold, which wasn't a hold, but because it's Kermit the Frog, it became one. They haven't played amazingly all season. They've kind of been doing it with smoke and mirrors, but it's Kermit the Frog, so they win. They basically are able to win. I mean, it makes, I think Detroit beating them on opening night knocked them off, it kind of threw them for a loop, but then it also made a reality where they need Travis Kelce and they need Chris Jones, because Mahomes is not playing to the MVP level that he has in previous years. And that's even with all the Swiftie nonsense that's going on there. Looks like Geno Smith got knocked out with an injury in this game for Seattle, which is not good. Has suffered a knee injury, limped off the field. got hit running out of bounds. So his stat line is not great, and probably not going to come back out for the rest of the game. They're up 14-3, as Josh mentioned. So curious to see how that'll all work out. That's pretty ugly. It's getting to be really dark in terms of injuries here in the league. Now we're getting in a week 4, week 5, whatever, getting in a week 5 of the season. Guys that have been underperforming finally getting some play or doing what they need to do. Justin Fields in a loss. I mean, they blew that game because of their defense sucks, and Matt Eberflus is clueless. Got some other guys there. I mean, you got Eckler's going to wait till after the bye to come back, so there's that. The 49ers were able to win with relative ease. Mentioned earlier, I guess we were talking about it offline, where the Arizona Cardinals' defensive strategy was to allow Christian McCaffrey to run all over them and leave Brandon Ayuk wide open and let him get free releases in the middle of the field so that Brock Purdy could throw darts. And Brock Purdy had the highest completion percentage for any 49er quarterback ever on Sunday, breaking a record that was held by Steve Young, of course. And only one incompletion yesterday. Ayuk was feasting. Christian McCaffrey was feasting. It was hilarious to watch. The defense was not hilarious to watch. The pass rush, Javon Hargrave, notwithstanding. I mean, Bosa being out there and having his presence, but the pass rush hasn't been ideal or elite yet. Linebacker play, of course, is solid. Secondary play is iffy at best, and Arizona with Josh Dobbs was able to pick apart the back end of the defense. They made changes. Those changes didn't help. So something to look at going into this weekend's game. Sunday Night Football at Santa Clara. The Niners hosting the Cowboys. A big matchup in the NFC. Rivalry that has gone on for many, many years. I think there's a lot. I mean, it's a Week 5 game. You just want to get through these games no matter what with as much health as you can. The way people are falling by the wayside this year on the injury side of things. So, but that game is going to be an interesting a battle between the Niners offense with Kyle Shanahan versus Dan Quinn's Dallas Cowboy defense. Micah Parsons, who's one of the best players in the league, period. And on the other side, of course, on the Niners defense, you have the reigning defensive player of the year, one of the best players in the league, in Nick Bosa. You also have Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, who's probably the best linebacker duo in the NFL. So that's a lot of good defensive players, but then, the offenses get the run, and Brock Purdy going against Dak Prescott. There'll be a lot of play in the media with that. Going to be an interesting game. Just continue to be cautiously optimistic, one game at a time, because you never know. Fantasy-wise, has been fortunate this week for the most part. Look like I'm going to have another 3 in 1 week. Our dynasty team is a fucking disaster, but otherwise, the redraft leagues that I have had some rough starts, but this week able to get a win in the one league against a team that a scuffling team as well, one that actually is trying to make moves, but got productivity out of, I mentioned Fields, Puka Nacua had a touchdown, so that was something. Diggs, James Cook. After that, I mean, it's a whole bunch of nothing. But move into my other teams. Just go and switch over there briefly. Do that. Find out what's going on there. And having a hold right here. Apologies. Trying to get my account open. And Yeah, so, yep, that's me. Yeah, so there you go. So we'll get an update here on the Fall Brawl League as we have an opportunity. 14-3 is mentioned for the Seattle Seahawks on the road at MetLife Stadium. Jamal Adams is already out with a concussion, so wouldn't you know? Get into that. Yeah, so one of my teams, aptly named Faithful to the Bay, has one of the high scores in that league. And for the week, this week, it's more of a standard scoring, so nothing out of the ordinary. Trying to get into close all those windows. It seems like we're having issues loading, so that's not good. It's yeah, because he's a retard. Auction confirms, yeah. So yeah, that's not shocking at all. So having technical difficulties on this end, so I might go and reverse back to that later on, because it seems like all the other stuff is decided to go and crash. Yeah, so there you go. Click that. So I'll go back to that. So in my league, get the win over Manny. Manny ended up having one of the top point scores of the week. He ends up being in the top 5, but ends up taking the loss. Teams that are up front, Josh is ahead of me. Needs a lot of help to make up. Right now is a 15-point deficit to pass Matt. Football is life is Luke. He's on his way to another win and probably second high point score over Wilson. Vic is gonna get a victory over Jeff. Close battle there. At least Jeff has the Eagles. And then Steve, who has led the league so far early this season, gets a 13-point victory over Joey this week. So that's really the only matchup. I think, what is it? The only thing to determine, Luke is going to win. It's just by how much. Josh is still in play in the second half. And then, all the other matchups are determined accordingly. So we'll get updates on that. My team in the Fall Brawl League, Lamar Jackson, had 4 total touchdowns, 2 passing, 2 rushing, did have a fumble lost. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a solid game on Thursday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. Devontae Smith, 7 for 78. Then Bijan Robinson in a losing game there for Atlanta. 14 attempts for 105 yards, rushing, 5 receptions, 32 yards. So solid performance for him. Alvin Kamara makes his 23 debut and puts a nice stat line together. 11 for 51 rushing, 13 receptions for 30. Is that for real? Really? 13 receptions for 33 yards. That's 2.3 yards a catch?
Who had that?
Alvin Kamara. 13 receptions on 14 targets, and it was 13 for 33 yards. Well, it is New Orleans. It's because Derek Carr was trying to be Billy Badbutt, and his arm is basically hanging off the side of his body like Stat Padford's was last year. Puka Nacua, 9 for 163 and a touchdown. And Anthony Richardson, 200 yards on 11 completions, 2 touchdowns, 56 yards rushing and another touchdown. So a very solid weekend. Had Rashad White, Jordan Love, Damian Pierce on the bench. So Quiddy Pay put up a donut, which is my luck with IDPs. Patrick Queen and Dax Hill both played well, so we'll take that. I mentioned Faithful to the Bay. My other team, that's Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills Josh Allen. And I have Justin Jefferson on that team. That was a team that I picked number one. I had the number one overall picked Justin Jefferson, and then Josh Allen with the next pick, and then followed it up with Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, for whatever reason, they spent the number 12 overall pick on him, Detroit, but they don't give him the ball. Jefferson, Nakua, very quiet day for Raheem Mostert after a pretty solid start to the year for the Miami Dolphins running back. Jake Ferguson, the tight end for Dallas, solid performance, 7 for 77. Brandon Ayuk, didn't play him again. Seems like when I don't play him, he has big games. But he wasn't going to play anyways because I don't have a flex. They don't have a flex in this league. 6 for 148, but it's nice to have him. My wide receiver room is pretty damn good when you consider I have Jefferson, Nakua, Ayuk, Chris Godwin is my number 4 there. I have Jonathan Taylor on the PUP, so he's going to be coming back. Now, whether he's going to be playing for Indianapolis Colts or not is a whole other discussion, but see what happens. So, yeah, fantasy football looking solid enough. You have a lot to... what? Oh, they're completely... This is making no sense. Okay, yeah. So right now, the team I'm playing, we're up by, 15 points. Seattle's defense. He has Seattle's defense, Tyler Lockett, and Kenneth Walker. So there is a chance he could win because they just started the second half there, Seattle's defense. They have 4 sacks, a fumble, recovery so far. Kenneth Walker, 24 yards, rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. 1 reception, 14 yards for Tyler Lockett. Geno Smith out of the game, dealing with leg injury. Medical tent. Yeah, so they haven't given any further updates. And Seattle, just after this week, they will be going on bye, so it probably behooves them to go and sit Geno if they don't have to play him, which, if considering the Giants' offense and their offensive line or lack thereof, probably speaks to them not really needing him. So see what happens with that. Let's get into the GSP roundup this week. MotoGP was at Twin Ring Motegi for the Japanese Grand Prix. It continues the battle, the Ducati battle continues, and the results of the Grand Prix itself. Jorge Martin wins for Pramac over Pecco Bagnaia. Marc Marquez finishes 3rd. It was in wet conditions too, so got to throw that in there. Marco Bezzecchi, Aleix Espargaro round out the top 5. Jack Miller, Gusto Fernandez, Fabio Di Gianantonio, Raul Fernandez, and Fabio Quartararo rounded out the top 10. Cal Crutchlow riding on the Yamaha test bike finished 13th. Brattle racing for Repsol Honda 14th. Pol Espargaro got the last point. Joan Mir, Taka Nakagami, and his home Grand Prix finished 11th. Johan Zarco ended up falling out of the race along with Brad Binder. So we'll go into the standings after the Japanese Grand Prix. Pecco Bagnaia has a 3-point lead on Jorge Martin. It's getting really interesting for sure. The number of mistakes that Bagnaia has made has given Martin a chance to possibly become world champion. Marco Bezzecchi's basically in his own world, 35 and 54 points behind, so he's going to need a lot of help. Brad Binder 4th, Aleix Espargaro 5th, 9 points out of Johan Zarco there. So in the MotoGP series. Now in Moto2, there was a run in cloudy conditions, not in rain, so like the main race was. Somikat Chantra beat Ayagura, the Idemitsu Honda teammates, Team Asia teammates finished 1-2. Pedro Acosta 3rd, Jake Dixon 4th, Philippe Salek 5th. Gonzalez, Ramirez, Canet, Van de Gerber, and Darren Binder rounded out the top 10. Tony Arbolino, Joe Roberts gets a 12th place. Alonso Lopez, Guevara, and Baltus rounded out the point scorers. Sean Dillon Kelly finished the race, finished 23rd. So he coming off of his first points of his Moto2 career in Moto2, heading forward. A 50-point lead for Pedro Acosta on Tony Arbolino. Nearly 93-point lead on Jake Dixon. And Aaron Canet, Alonso Lopez, Chantra moves himself up to 6th. It's a close battle. 20 points separate the riders from 4th to 9th. So Ayagura moves up into 10th. Joe Roberts right now is 15th in points. Has a possible opportunity to move up to 12th as the rest of the season goes on. Okay, so that's Japan, get through that. So they'll take a couple of weeks off and they'll start again at Indonesia, and then they'll do Indonesia, Phillip Island, Australia, and Thailand 3 consecutive weeks. Take another break and then finish the season out with Malaysia, Qatar, and Valencia. Qatar usually opened this season, but I guess this year they changed it up. Started with Portugal and Argentina. We'll see what happens with that. World Superbikes raced at the Algarve and in Portugal. One of your races, blah blah blah. Alvaro Bautista swept the weekend, all 3 races. Toprak Raskat-Lioku finished 2nd on all 3 races, and Johnny Ray finished 2nd or 3rd in race 1. Michael Ruben Rinaldi 2nd in race 2. The Super Pole race, Andrea Locatelli finished 3rd. Alvaro Bautista has a 60-point lead on Toprak Raskat-Lioku in the World Championship. Johnny Ray has 50 points out of Locatelli for 3rd. And Axel Bassani, who has been chosen to take over Jonathan Ray's bike at the Kawasaki factory team. Johnny Ray's taking over the Yamaha that Toprak Raskat-Lioku is departing from to go to BMW. The lead BMW rider is Garrett Gerloff. 1 point, he's in 13th. 1 point behind Iker Lackawanna and 3 points behind Dominique Argueter. 4 points out of the top 10. So right now he's got a chance to get himself into the top 10. He's only 5 points out there. So something to look at as the season winds down. Gerloff finished 4th in race 1 at Portugal. In race 2, or in a Super Pole race. In the results in the Super Pole race, he finished 8th, and in race 2, Garrett Gerloff finished 4th again in race 2. So big points a weekend. I think he's starting to get a hold or get an idea of this motorcycle. Close gap too. He was within less than 3 seconds of the win. So big deal, to say the least, to have Garrett Gerloff competitive. Might be hopefully a sign of things to come for 2024, as he's going to continue on that BMW next year. The last race of the last round of the season will be at Jerez in Spain at the end of October. Own opportunity, very close in the points, to possibly get himself into the top 10 in points with his recent gain in form on his BMW bike. The NHRA had interesting weekend at the Midwest Nationals at Gateway Worldwide Technology Raceway. In Top Fuel, Clay Milliken got the victory over Leah Pruitt. both had equal start reaction times, but Milliken outran the TSR dragster and Tony Stewart's wife while Tony Stewart was sitting in the announce booth calling the race. Clay Milliken with 375 with an A331.94 gets a victory over Leah Pruitt. Milliken came from the 7th spot, beat Austin Prock, Mike Salinas, Tony Schumacher to get to the final. Pruitt from the 8-hole beat Langdon, Doug Coletta, and Steve Torrance to get to the final. In funny car, Matt Hagan gave Tony Stewart Racing victory. He and got himself right back into the championship battle as well with his victory over Ron Capps. Matt Hagan started 5th, beat Alexis DeJoria, John Force, Bob Tasca, the number 1 qualifier. There, Ron Capps from the 7th spot, Tim Wilkerson, Alex Laughlin, Blake Alexander to get to the final there. In Pro Stock Car, the ageless wonder who it is, Greg Anderson, gets the victory over Aaron Stanfield. He actually got Aaron Stanfield on the tree, but the crazier one was we will put up a 002 against his longtime rival Erica Enders, who then shook the tires shortly off the starting line in the semifinal. Greg Anderson from the 4th spot beat Jerry Tucker, Derek Kramer, and Enders to get to the final. Aaron Stanfield from the 7th spot beat Camry Caruso, Chris McGahey, and Bo Butner to make the final. Pro Stock Motorcycle, a battle of the Vance and Hines, Suzuki, and Gage Herrera gets yet another victory. Beats teammate Eddie Krawick in the final. Herrera gets a win in the first round over Joey Gladstone, gets a bye in the second, beats Chase Van Zandt in the semis. And Chase Van Zandt, mentioning him, he was supposed to race Angie Smith in the first round of eliminations, but she had a big accident on Saturday during qualifying and was rushed to the hospital. Was going to have cosmetic or surgeries and also other repairs for feet and her ankles, and also for her hands with the road rash that she got. So she'll be on the shelf more than likely, I would think, for the rest of the season. But we're praying and hoping for a speedy recovery for Angie Smith and to return, of course, in the coming months, definitely for 2024. Matt Smith, who was summoned to go and race by Angie, he went out there, started number 2, got all the way to the semis, but was late against Eddie Krawick in the semifinals, and went out there going Krawick from the 3 spot, beat Ryan Ayler, Gianna Evaristo. I mentioned Smith there to get to the final. So that was Pro Stock Motorcycle. I'm trying to see who else was in. Yeah, so they didn't have Top Alcohol Dragster this weekend. That's why Tony was in the booth. The standings heading to Dallas. Doug Coletta has a 47-point lead on Leah Pruitt, 51 on Steve Torrance, 77 on Justin Ashley, and 96 over Antron Brown. In Top Fuel and Funny Car, Bob Tasca has a 6-point lead on Robert Height, 13 on Matt Hagan, 33 on Ron Capps. So that's going to go down to the wire. Eric Enders is 25 points out of Greg Anderson, 38 over Matt Hartford, 64 over Dallas Glenn. Aaron Stanfield minus 73 in 5th. Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gage Herrera has a 99-point lead on Matt Smith, 126 over Hector Rana, 129 over Eddie Krawick. So looking like the rookie sensation is going to win his win a title in his rookie year. Angel Sampay did that, I think. It's rare. Gary Selzy did it in Top Fuel. I remember that. I'd have to go back into the into the history books to find out all that. We'll move over to the Bathurst 1000, the great race. It's the one everybody wants to win. If you are an Aussie Aussie touring car driver, Craig Lowndes has won it. Is the second most, and 20 straight great race. Debut 94, finished second. Brad Jones HRT. 25 of the 56 drivers on this year's grid were born after Lowndes' debut. 30 years. I mean, that's insane. 20th straight great. It says who will make his 30th consecutive great race start. Okay, so they've had a misprint over there. So 30 years in a row, tying the great Peter Brock, his mentor. Jim Richards had 35 consecutive. Lowndes is set to reach at least 32 to take him through 2025. Richards and Lowndes are 7-time winners, with Brock leading the way on 9. So 2 and Richards. Yeah, so that's something to look at. Of course, Lowndes being in the race itself. In Bathurst 1000, start last, finish first. Best of Bathurst moments. Trying to get entry list information. Techford reveals trying to do BRT reveals F1 inspired Bathurst livery. Oh, so they're actually going to run Blanchard wildcard Mustang backed by Petronas, so it'll look like the Mercedes F1 car with the black and green and silver. So that's a cool looking car. So calendar, Bathurst 1000, trying to go through there, trying to think of schedule, qualifying, track schedule, don't have that. That's fine and well. I'm going to get, Triple Eight chasing outright Bathurst record. That's not what I need. Damn. That's not what I need. But going to Super 2020 promotion, Big Dunlop Series Bathurst. Okay, so that's a Nissan. Trady. Oh, that's a cool looking car. Et cetera. That's not okay. So I guess I'm not gonna get the information that I need. So they've changed the website. Looks nice and clean looking, but it's hard to navigate. So there you go. Gotta give them credit in that to go and make it hard to navigate, and which is unfortunate when you're trying to go and give information. Okay, there you go. Bathurst program, fans attending order online. Oh, so that's that. They had a program for the Bathurst 1000. I'm trying to, and Supercars Honor and Legend and Milestone. Oh, the 60th running of the Bathurst 1000. So that's great that's a historic number. This is more. First Bathurst V8 era, coming to grips with DGR front, Triple Eight, car swap controversy, dumbbell, Bathurst or pit stop challenge, modified doors, rear panels for Mustangs, rookie commits to Bathurst, Lucky D Silvestro, Enduros, Bathurst, making it out 250 wins. So, the wild card for Shell V Power Racing with Simona Di Silvestro will be, instead of a predominantly red red shell car, it'll be yellow for next for that team. There's wild card livery engineer, yellow 98 citing octane premium fuel. It's a cool looking car. Hopefully they'll be competitive. 98, and then it's it'll be Simona Di Silvestro and Kai Allen. 28 cars, including the wild cards. Nick Percat and Fabian Coulthard for Walkinshaw Andretti United Ford. Then Todd Hazelwood, Tim Blanchard for the number 3 Blanchard Racing Ford, Jack Smith, Jackson Evans, first of the Brad Jones Chevys, James Courtney, Zach Best, for Tickford, number 5. Cam Waters and James Moffitt in the Monster Energy Ford. Aaron Love and Jake Kostecki for Blanchard Racing Team. I think that's the Petronas car. Andre Heimgartner and Dale Wood for Brad Jones. Will Brown and Jack Perkins for Coca-Cola Erebus. Anton DePasquale and Tony D'Alberto for Dick Johnson Racing and the Shell V-Power Team. Bryce Fullwood and Dean Fiore for Brad Jones Racing. Will Davison and Alex and brother Alex in the number 17 for DJR. Mark Winterbottom and Michael Caruso in the number 18. DeWalt Tools, I think. Chevy for Team 18. Matt Payne, Kevin Estra. Grove Racing, Ford, Scott Pye, Warren Luff in the second Team 18 car. Premier Racing, Chevy, Tim Slade and Jonathan Webb. Chaz Mostert, Lee Holdsworth in the Walkinshaw Andretti United number 25. David Reynolds and Garth Tander in the second Grove Racing Penrite Ford. James Golding, Dylan O'Keefe for the second Premier Chevy. Jack LeBrock and Jaden Ojeda for Matt Stone Racing Chevy. Cameron Hill and Jalen Robotham in the second Matt Stone Chevy. Thomas Randall and Gary Jacobson for Tickford Racing number 55. Declan Frazier and Tyler Everingham in the number 56. Brock Feeney and team owner, team principal Jamie Wincup in the number 88. Red Bull Ampool 888 Racing Chevrolet. Macaulay Jones and Jordan Boys number 96 for Brad Jones Racing. Shane Van Gisbergen and Richie Stanaway in the number 97 for Red Bull Ampool 888 Racing Chevrolet. You'll have Simona Di Silvestro, Kai Allen, who's mentioned, number 98 for DJR and Shell V-Power. Points leader this year, Brody Kostecki, David Russell in the Erebus Motorsports, Coca-Cola Racing Chevrolet, and Craig Lowndes and Zane Goddard in the number 888 Racing Engineering Chevrolet. Trying to remember who's the sponsor. I think it's Shifted for Racing. I forgot about what the sponsor is. But so he's making a historic start. Oh, so they're got the Penrite cars are gonna have gold. So that's a cool looking cars. Chevy Camaro. So after all of that, we move forward. Andretti Global, we mentioned that. So the last thing we'll do, Josh, I'll bring you back in here after it took forever for me to get through the Supercars deal. Andretti Global has been approved, at least by the FIA, to be the 11th team on the grid in Formula One, passing the rigorous guidelines and all to get through. So that's something to see now whether the FOM will allow them to get on the grid starting in 2025 is a whole other story. But considering everything we've been talking about with Michael Andretti and then also his involvement with I keep on forgetting who the name of the I just keep on calling him Gainbridge guy because he's really effing rich. He's basically the co-owner of the organization. And so that's an interesting little mock-up of a F1 car with Gainbridge and Napa colors. It looks pretty cool. But Michael Andretti, I mean, 30 years ago, tried to race in Formula One. It didn't go so well for him. There was a confluence of circumstances that took place there when he did try to race in Formula One at the prime of his career at McLaren and et cetera, but now he wants to come in as an owner, bring Cadillac into the fold. Looks like he's going to get an engine power unit deal with Alpine, for better or worse. It seems like there's a lot of good pieces in place. They're going to have a main part of the major part of the team is going to be in Indianapolis, but then they're going to have a base in Europe as well for I guess for logistics purposes. But Michael Andretti's team gets approved through the FIA. Now, whether the teams will allow it and the FOM will is the next battle on the horizon. But Michael Andretti is putting himself in a place to possibly get the Andretti name on the grid once again in Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, it's a significant move here. Obviously, the FIA approves the application, so it's a significant first step and gives them legitimacy in what they're trying to do with this effort. And Michael Andretti, after last year has been kind of a struggle in this avenue, trying to get approved to go race in Formula One. A lot of drama throughout the last year of how you'd be able to achieve this, and now he gets the application approved, so now I can move on to the next step with the Formula One management and begin negotiating with them, and negotiating the teams, allowing him into the sport. Obviously, there's been some talk about the teams not being as welcoming to Andretti's entry, but I think with this application being approved, I think it definitely gives them the opportunity to start weighing that question and begin those discussions, and hopefully they can go positive, so that we can have a legitimate F1 team, somebody with actual racing experience in America, someone who's raced in Formula One that understands the sport very, very well and has family history as well in this sport. So being an entry and being a team here in Formula One, and definitely give a better American presence in the sport. Obviously, there's a lot of American investment already throughout Formula One, but Haas is an American Formula One team, but I don't. Nobody gives a shit about Haas, so, and they don't really give anybody a reason to care either. So now we have Andretti, whose name is synonymous with speed here in America. At least back in the old days, I don't know about now, but certainly a historical name associated with racing definitely will generate a lot of interest. I think if they're able to get approved and their race team gets formed, then we'll see how competitive they can be early on. But if they make it, so definitely a good piece of news to see. And now we get to see what the next step of negotiations will look like for Andretti here.
And I figure that'll go on as we lead into the end of the season for Formula One. I would venture to say, and I don't think I'd be going out on a limb, that this would be a move for 2026 when they have the new power unit and a new aero formula instead of 2025 doing 1 year and then having to change over. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I think timing wise, logistics wise, that's probably where they would have to go. The likes of Rodin Carlin tried to make a move to get that team or get that 11th spot. High Tech and another F2 outfit were trying to do that, and then there's an Lee Soons, I don't know how they pronounce that, but basically funded by a multi-billionaire, was going to try to have a female driver. Seemed like Jamie Chadwick was in play there. So something to look at. I mean, of course, Jamie Chadwick drives for Andretti in Indy next. So something to look at. Colton Herta, all the rumors from last year. So something, we'll see what happens with that. It's probably 2+ years down the line that they would make their official debut if everything goes through. So something to look forward to as the weeks and months go on. Formula One will return to Qatar for the first time in a couple of years, and so they had, there's, first time in 2 years. They took a year in between because of the World Cup for soccer, This year they return. There's been changes to the pit complex, and since the last time the Formula One teams were there, moving into a busier. This is a gap in the schedule. They had a couple weeks between this race, and then it'll be a couple weeks before they go to United States and COTA and go back to back with Mexico. The Qatar Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton dominated this race from pole in 2021. But you would assume that Fish Lips will do the same this year, since he's basically done that all year. I'll open up the picks here for F1 Qatar Grand Prix. And so Fish Lips wins sprint and locks up WDC with Sainz and Norris rounding out podium. Fish Lips wins race, and with smooth operator, or with Norris and smooth operator finishing, so they swap places on the podium. What about you, Josh? Who do you think will finish behind Fish Lips in Qatar?
Yeah, I mean, Max only needs 3 points in the sprint race to be able to lock up the championship, so it's very attainable there. So, yeah, I mean, he wins the sprint race in the title there, so he wins the race. I mean, damn, you really got me there with the pick, because I was honestly thinking the same thing. I'll say Lando Norris finished second in the sprint and the race, and then I'll say that I'll just say that Sergio Perez finishes in third in the sprint, and the race will say that I guess I'll say that Smooth Operator finishes. Let's flip the order. Smooth Operator second in the race, and then Lando Norris in second or in third. So very complicated there, but had to make it different, because those looks like the three best guys in Formula One right now.
And Sainz third in the race. Yeah, so that's we got all that down. Fish Lips gets both wins. Norris. So I had Sainz second in the sprint and third in the race. And then Norris third in the sprint, second in the race. You have Norris second in the sprint and third in the race. And I have Carlos Sainz also in third. Checo Perez, the outlier amongst that group there. Lewis Hamilton, we'll see what Mercedes brings to the table. He's 33 points behind Sergio Perez for second in the Drivers' Championship, 16 points out of Fernando Alonso. Carlos Sainz is 15 points out of Charles Leclerc, 24 behind his fellow countryman Alonso. Leclerc has 20 points on Norris and Russell. Interesting to look at amongst that whole group there from second on through eighth. The Constructors' Championship is 20 points between Mercedes and Ferrari. Then Aston Martin is trying to hold off McLaren, who is 28 and 49 points behind Aston Martin. So that's probably the battle really out. I mean, Mercedes, Ferrari, but then the Aston Martin McLaren battle is one to look at. And then from Williams all the way to AlphaTauri is 16 points now. Granted, how likely is it that they're going to race in the top five and get the bigger points to be determined? But there's a lot of movement that could take place amongst those four teams, the four theoretical smallest teams on the grid. AlphaTauri is basically Red Bull Light. Aston Martin, even though Stroll took over, is the old Jordan F1 team. But they have a lot of resources these days. All right, so we'll move forward to the Roval. First, we'll start with the drive for the Cure 250 Xfinity race. 42 drivers, 42 cars for 38 spots. So we'll get into, go through the entry list. Usual suspects, of course, the regulars. Weatherman and Poole. Josh Bilicki will be in the 07 for SS Greenlight. Stefan Parsons in the 08 for SS Greenlight. Hemrick continues, of course, in the 10 for Colleague. And the number 11 this weekend will be Jordan Taylor, Rodney Sandstorm driving the LA Golf Chevy. Boris Said, the ageless wonder. The Said heads get to come out of hibernation. I mean, he is driving TA1, but getting in a competitive ride. Greg Ives, the Hendrick Cars number 17 Chevy this weekend, trying to go and qualify first of all, but then to try and compete in what might or sounds like is going to be his last NASCAR race ever. Sammy Smith, yeah, of course he's been there. So Trevor Bain in the 19 for Gibbs. Connor Mozak in the 24 for Sam Hunt with Sherry Strong on the car. Moffitt coming off of that Truck Series win. You got Alex Gwinnett, the driver from the Pinty Series, getting into the Emmerling Gase number 35. Graf in the 38. Ryan Ellis, 43 for Alpha Prime. Rajah Caruth in the 44 for Alpha Prime. Leland Honeyman in number 45. Preston Pardis in another appearance with Family Run number 50. Connor Daly driving the second Emmerling Gase car. Sage Karam driving for Carl Long and MBM. Devin Jones, whoever he is. Alex LeBay in the number 91. Can't count him out on a road course. Josh Williams there. Kyle Segan, the 28. And Andy Lally driving for Peterson Racing Group, whoever that is. And a number 87 definitely will have to make the show on time because they have no points to fall back on there. So yeah, you went there first, so you went just now for Formula One. You get to go first for the Xfinity race. It is a cutoff, so I guess it's who do you pick to win, who is your wild card, and who advances into the round of 8. I mean, obviously, John Hunter, Justin Allgaier have won. Cole Custer is advanced through points. Who makes it in, and who ends their chance at a championship? Those are questions leading into the Roval.
All right, so yeah, for the winner, I mean, it's really easy for me. I'm gonna go with Justin Allgaier. It's road course expert, I think, in the Xfinity Series, and funnily enough, in the Roval history, there have only been 2 winners, AJ Allmendinger and Chase Briscoe, in this, and so it would actually be only the 3rd time we've had a different winner here at the Roval. So yeah, Justin Allgaier's had a good record here over the years, and he's generally been a good road course driver throughout his career. So I will pick him this weekend here. My wild card will be Boar's Head in the 17. That's a callback to an old joke from 2003 when my baseball coach asked me who was on the pole for Sonoma, and my dad told me to say Boar's Head because he thought it was funny. So yeah, that's how I think of that. But yeah, we'll see what he can do in a Hendrick car. He's been a good road course driver over the years, and in NASCAR, and certainly has been somebody that's been pretty quick there. And I guess for the points for the elimination, pull up the point standings here in Xfinity. Pull that up. Driver points. who's on the bubble and who needs to win to get in. Well, Dan Hemrick is on the edge. Parker Kligerman only 1 point out. Josh Berry significantly out. Sam Mayer also significantly out of points, and Jeb Burton. I'm gonna say that Daniel Hemrick doesn't make it. I don't think Jeb Burton, Josh Berry, or Sam Mayer can make it. Sam Mayer is won on a road course. He's been pretty good. Won at Watkins Glen and at Road America. So, he's definitely has a good chance to pull it out and win. But I just can't see it. With the way his playoffs have been going on so far. Josh Berry, decent at road course racing as well, but he's just been struggling this year as well, and I think it's just a lot of points to make up. So Parker Kligerman, only 1 point out. I think he can definitely point his way into the playoffs at the very least. We saw how good he's run at road courses at different points this year. Look at when he ran at Portland International Raceway, had a really good run there and everything. So, he has a good chance to make it in round of 8. So I'm going to say that he makes it in over Daniel Hemrick there. So, it should be an interesting Xfinity race, last road course race of the year. So looking forward to seeing some good action here on Saturday.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, usually the Xfinity Series is known for more carnage and more. I mean, there's definitely carnage in this race anyway, but a lot more stuff goes on in the Xfinity for sure. My pick to win this weekend at Charlotte, pretty difficult. I mean, you brought up the fact that Briscoe, the original winner, first winner at the Roval, and then since then AJ Allmendinger had won every Roval race in the Xfinity Series. I think for this weekend, I'm going to go... This is really tough. I mean, you got the one that makes the most sense. You know what? I'll just go with this. Parker Kligerman gets his first career Xfinity win at the Roval and locks himself into the round of 8 by doing that. So that would be my pick. It just seems like that's probably the path of least resistance. Parker Kligerman wins to win first Xfinity race and advance. It's kind of it really is a wild card because of money, equipment, the whole deal. I'll go with Sage Karam with the MBM. He has the experience these days as a wild card. But Carl Long's team, they haven't run a whole lot of races. I think maybe they're putting all their eggs in the basket to try to be competitive this weekend with new tires and the like. So hopefully that is the case for them. And in terms of who gets eliminated, I'm gonna agree with Josh's call that Hemrick falls out, and Jeb Burton, Josh Berry, and Sam Mayer also end their title chances. I'm just gonna copy that. So that's what we both agree or concur on. Who's going out, who's going in. Just have Parker Kligerman winning the race instead of pointing his way into the round of 8. Last but not least will be the Cup Series Bank of America Roval 400 this weekend. 37 drivers for 40 spots, so of course no failing to qualify, none of that. Ross Chastain Worldwide Express this weekend. Gumby, Cindric, Menards, and Cardell Cabinetry. Bald Spot Dylan Huck Performance Fishing, or HUK, or I don't know. Kevin Harvick driving a Ream Chasing a Cure, so it'll be a pink, black, and white Ford Mustang for him. Valvoline for Larson. Castrol Edge for Keselowski, Gainbridge for Corey LaJoie, Lenovo for Kyle Busch, Napa back on the car this weekend for William Clyde Elliott II. IHOP back on the car for Eric Almirola, Mavis, Discount Tire and Brakes for Hamlin, Blaney, Mavis, Discount Tire and Brakes, while Discount Tire itself will be on YRB's number 12, Ford Performance Racing School on Chase Briscoe's number 14. Andy Lally will be driving the 15 with Camping World on the car, I think, because it seems like he made that deal with Marcus Lemonis on social media. AJ Allmendinger will have Celsius on number 16, Fifth Third Bank for Christopher Buescher, Bass Pro for Martin Truex, DeWalt Plumbing Solutions for Christopher Bell. Harrison Burton with Motorcraft Quick Lane announced that he'll be back for a third season in the Wood Brothers 21. Shell Pennzoil for Joey Logano, Lidos for Bubba Wallace, HP for William Byron, Leaf Filter for Justin Haley, Love's Travel Stops for Michael McDowell, Zane Smith in the Ambetter Health 38, Ryan Preece, Autodesk and Haas Tooling in the 41, Mike Rockenfeller driving the Legacy 42, Eric Jones will go back to having a Legion on the 43, Jordan Brand on the 45 for Tyler Reddick, Richard with Harris Teeter and Totino's on the 47, of course Ally for Alex Bowman. The 51, it will be Todd Gilliland more than likely, because that's what's been going on this year when Zane Smith has taken over the 38. Keebler Gibbs will have Interstate Batteries on his 54. Austin Hill will be driving this weekend in the 62 for Beard Motorsports. Ty Dillon doesn't have a sponsor listed. Ziegler Auto Group for Josh Balicki and Live Fast, and then Daniel Suarez, Aguas Frescas on the number 99 for Trackhouse Racing so Minute Maid Aguas Frescas, very colorful car for National Hispanic Heritage Month. So it'll be interesting, cool looking car there. For me, we'll go first for the Roval, and look at these drivers. You think about some of these guys that need to win or could use a win to get in, and it kind of leans towards, there's two guys I would say for that. There are a couple other drivers that are above the cut line at the moment that seem like favorable choices. I'm going to go with Tyler Reddick to win this weekend and get himself into the round of 8 with the victory for the Cup Series at Charlotte. Phil Reddick to win and advance. My wild card selection for this weekend's race. Now that is difficult. That is another tough choice. It's more straightforward because the road racing has become seemingly easy on the Cup side. It's kind of hard to say that, but it is. I wanted to do that, but can't do that because you know what? I'll go with AJ Allmendinger. Why not? I was thinking about it. It was going to be kind of difficult, but then I just thought about it. I was like, it's AJ Allmendinger. He's won so many times at the Roval. So your wild card to bring some hardware home to Tara and their new baby, getting a victory in the Cup Series again. That would be the wild card choice for me. And in terms of who gets through, I say Tyler Reddick wins, so he would get through. I'm going to say Kyle Busch gets eliminated. Ross Chastain, the driver who finished second in points in 2022, gets eliminated. Unfortunately, Darrell Walsh Jr. Goes by the wayside. because of, I guess, the bad strategy and bad luck in a sense in the first two races of this round, losing out on stage points that they probably could have earned. And I'm going to go and say Kyle Larson, even though he's won 3 races this year, even though Hendrick Motorsports is pretty good at these road courses, I'm going to say Kyle Larson gets eliminated in this round due to his lack of his inconsistencies, and they get themselves involved in some accident. It basically puts them out of it. Larson, which means I advanced Brad Keselowski by doing that as well. So Keselowski and everything else stays the same. Bubba, so yeah, DWJ, Chastain, and Busch get eliminated. Josh, you get the last call here for your picks for winner and wild card, and who gets eliminated from the playoff here at the Charlotte Roval.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, with how you're choosing your elimination. And, I mean, I think, starting off who gets eliminated, I agree with Bubba getting eliminated. I think he's got too big of a deficit to 8th place. If in your situation, if Reddick wins, then that, I mean, if things were to stay the same, he's got 15 points, or he's got almost 20 points, 22 points to Kyle Larson in that situation. Brad gets bumped out in that situation if it stays the same. So it's a lot of spots there. Chastain, same deal. Kyle Busch basically going to need a winner in. So yeah. So in this situation, for the winner, I'm going to say that Chris Buescher wins this race. I'll say that wild card. I'll say that Austin Cindric. If you're going to go with the road course guy, that's good. I'll say that Austin Cindric, another guy that's good on the road courses in general. I'll say he's going to be a wild card this weekend. And then elimination, I'll say Reddick gets in on points. Keselowski, I'm going to fade him here. And Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch all failed to make it into this round of 8 here. So, Bubba, good season, but, he just hasn't had the things go his way. And probably best chance to win was at Texas, considering the situation. Chastain just hasn't been good on pace all year. Busch fallen off since Michigan, basically. So, that's going to be interesting. And Keselowski, I don't think he's good enough on road courses to be able to close the gap or build enough points gap on Reddick there. And in your case, if Reddick wins, I think he falls out. So, and Larson, I think he's not going to make the same mistake that he did last year, getting into the wall, coming back onto the oval part of the track. I don't think he'll make that same issue there again. So I think, it should be an interesting one. Definitely could be wild, and I could make more wilder predictions here, with somebody in the top half of the standings falling out, but it's just it'd basically be calling for calamity here, and that's really hard to predict and everything. So that's what I'll go with.
Yeah, and I mean, there is definitely that aspect that could take place because it is a Roval. Getting past Talladega, which is also a similar type of situation, albeit on a super speedway versus a essentially tight street course type setting. We'll give an update. Seattle's up 24-3. What is it? Some D Witherspoon got a pick 6 off of Daniel Jones for a 97-yard pick 6. Gano, the only points they've scored, the Giants, is a 55-yard field goal. Geno Smith threw to DK Metcalf. Kenneth Walker got a touchdown. Jason Myers, 34-yard field goal just a couple minutes ago. Kenneth Walker right now is 83 yards on 16 attempts and a touchdown. Drew Lock is only 2 for 5 on 63 yards. Daniel Jones has 2 interceptions. Trying to get through Metcalf. The team, and there's another sack. So I'm getting, I would have beat every other team in the league that league this week, except for the team I'm going against. Not because it's really the defense of Seattle playing a sieve of an offense that is the Giants, and Kenneth Walker the third, 32 and 46 points for those two, and then Tyler Lockett had 4 receptions for 54 yards. So I go from possibly getting to 4-0 in this league to falling into a 5-way tie at 3-1. So that sucks. In terms of the matchups here in Fall Brawl, Luke has Daniel Jones, even with 2 interceptions and 1 fumble lost. He still got 19 points out of Daniel Jones because of the first downs, 66 rushing yards. 13 total first downs there. Geno Smith not in the game. DK Metcalf after the touchdown been quiet. Nick Bosa put up a donut yesterday. Didn't know that. The defensive linemen are just really bad in this thing. But yeah, so right now Josh is getting a decent performance out of Kenneth Walker, but unfortunately he needs more. And I don't think he's going to get that because they're already up 3 scores. So going to come close, but no cigar. Matt looks like, unless Kenneth Walker can get another tutty. If he gets another tutty, then that would change the situation. So he just lost 4 yards on a play there. So got to the 2-minute warning. So Seattle's going to get the victory. Keep up in the NFC West there with the LA Rams. Arizona took the loss against the 49ers, as mentioned earlier. Josh will open the floor for your sim segment. Let us know what's going on in the world of iRacing and gaming and what we should be looking for this coming week.
Yeah, one real quick on that game. Kenneth Walker almost had he had a big run and almost broke for a touchdown, so would have flipped things right there, and I probably would have won, but that's all right. And yeah, going on to iRacing, I mean, last week just did some Draft Masters, the Xfinity car in Daytona, which, that's just open setup Daytonas, so not quite pack racy. I mean, there was definitely the chance for the big one to happen, and somehow managed to avoid it. But after that, the field thinned out, and then it was basically just bump drafting and locking on for tandems. So kind of like what we see in real life there, and was pulling a lot faster speeds than when you're in the inside of a pack, and you have to lift and everything for the guy in front of you, so you don't run them over and everything. So it was last week. This week on iRacing, on the oval side, starting off, of course, the oval side with road courses, you've got the Charlotte Roval for Cup and Xfinity in the game, and then in the truck side is on Iowa, so obviously a diversion there because there is no truck racing this week on the real life schedule. The 87 car has Daytona. Gen 4 car has Chicagoland Speedway. Dallara IndyCar at the Chicago Street Course. So that will be interesting with another street course in the game, and actually might have some decent. I mean, the track isn't that great, but I feel like open wheel car is definitely more suited for a street race versus the stock car there. We got the super late model at New Smyrna Speedway, the late model stock at Myrtle Beach before they tore it down, Dallara IR01 at Pocono Raceway. And then Draft Masters switched over to Talladega this week now, and with the 87 car starting out for the week. So that should be interesting there. Definitely will be a mess, of course, with the 87 car on that. And then let's see what else is in this on the road side. The road series side, you have the Formula Fords at the Charlotte Roval, Formula V also at the Legends road course, which that's a little bit of a different layout. So the Roval, but it utilizes the Legends course rather than the full oval. So that's a bit of a different one there. You've got Road America in the Radical SR10, Global Endurance Series at Spa this week. You got Super Formula at Spa as well. Then the Formula One car at Magny Core. Let's see, another endurance. Let's see, another GT4 Endurance Series multi-class, 720 minutes. So that's definitely a long one at VIR. 720 minutes, is that like, is that what, 720? That's probably, let me like do some quick math there. I don't know how long that is.
Isn't that 12 hours?
12 hours, yeah.
I think, maybe.
Yeah, 12-hour race, so I don't know if I have time for that this week. A 12-hour challenge endurance race at VIR, which that's not really a road course that I'm good at. I'm still trying to figure that one out. It's definitely a tougher one, but it's on there if you want to do a 12-hour endurance race this week. What time? Let's see, because that's got to be a schedule this week. Oh, that's not until December, so I guess iRacing is still having it listed on there. This is only a four time a year road course series, and the next one is in December. But I guess I was reading it, and it has it listed on the schedule here, or on the series active series list this week for whatever reason. And then IMSA Endurance Series at Watkins Glen on the boot layout this week. Got the Global MX5 Cup at Laguna Seca, GT3 Fixed Series at Laguna Seca as well, and then the Open Wheel USF 2000s, Indy Pro 2000s at Worldwide Technology Raceway on the oval. So road course series coming onto the oval for C and D class American open wheel series. And then you've got the GR Cup, Toyota GR Cup at Redskoggen Motor Center, and the Clio Cup there as well. So yeah, that's basically all the series on iRacing this week on the oval and road side. I mean, we can go dirt oval if people are interested in that. I mean, you've got Eldora, Knoxville, Lanier Speedway, Lima Land Motorsports Park, Port Royal, the dirt track at Charlotte, Volusia Speedway Park, USA International Speedway, all on dirt this week for street stocks, sprint cars, late models, modifieds. So there's that there as well if people are interested in dirt midgets. If people are interested in watching dirt or doing dirt racing, I'm not really that good at it, so I don't really participate in that. I stick to oval and road racing, and partly because I have to change my steering settings to be more responsive, and I'd have to do some recalibration there to kind of replicate the dirt feel, but and responsiveness that you need for that. But yeah, that's all the series this week on iRacing. Definitely try to hit up the Roval a few times this week. Probably hit up some of the more road course racing side as well. 87 cars as usual. So there's definitely plenty of opportunity for fun and possible wins here this week on iRacing. So probably try to stream one of them or two of them, maybe, we'll see, and go on there. So of course streams at Twitch TV/usailor2, and go in there and watch and see the racing on there, and see how I do. Of course, we'll try to tweet it out, which of course, and tweet out the show when we post it, which of course, find that at JP Huffine for me and then the YouTube channel for this show at Gripster Podcast on YouTube, which you can go ahead and like and subscribe and comment on that on all our videos. So yeah, definitely a good discussion here on the show. Glad we had good racing this past weekend at Talladega and good football action as well to close out the week. And we'll go into this week and go into this wild Roval race here on Sunday and Saturday, and we'll see how it goes. And of course, Formula One on Sunday as well to bore us in between the NASCAR races. So definitely should be a good weekend of racing here coming up for sure.
Yep, absolutely. You're getting down into the nitty-gritty in the last couple of months of the season in terms of racing in general. But we'll definitely continue to give you guys all the takeaways and information on that. You can find us on X at Gripstrip Pod. You can find me at PGMatthew28 on X. You can find the Gripstrip Podcast on Podbean, which was our host site. You can also find it at philipgmatthew.com. Of course, check out the YouTube page, Gripstrip Podcast, that Josh handles the video feed there. We try to do our best. I mean, Josh is better than me in that sense, of course, so credit to you on that, to getting it out there. But we'll get the show out here for this week and move forward next week to episode 190 of the Gripstrip Podcast, recapping the Roval, recapping Qatar for Formula One, and the Bathurst 1000, and whatever else is going on in the world of motorsports and in the NFL. We'll talk about next week on the Gripstrip Podcast. So thanks as always for listening and supporting, and we'll see you around the corner next time on the GSP.